Stevens in the middle.
Step forward for us. Thank you. Stanford has caused some heartache over the years, including last year. Just what's your guys' sense of kind of any given year? You know, this is a team that because they can be a little unusual, they're such a threat that way.
So, you know, just over the years, we always know Stanford's a big physical team. You know, they big personnel, you know, all across the board, whether it's the open field and the red zone, short yards, things like that. So, you know, we've got to play big and we got to be physical. So it's going to be a physical game. It's always been a physical game. So that's pretty much what we expect.
They're known as a DB. I mean, they're known too for 50-50 balls. Their guys go up and win. You know, is that something they're still doing a fair amount? Is that something you feel like you guys really need to be ready for this week?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's definitely part of what they are. And, you know, especially like in the red zone, they're throwing fade balls because, you know, they got those big, tall guys, tall receivers, tall, big tight ends. You know, they try to box you out, things like that. So we definitely expect that. We're definitely working on that at practice.
What about Tanner McKay stands out on tape to you?
Oh, man, I think he's a very smart quarterback. He's very smart, real good decision maker. He knows how to diagnose the defense with his reads and everything like that. So I think he's a very talented player.
Such a big contrast between Wazoo, what they're trying to do offensively, and Stanford. Thompson's third in the conference in passing yards. Stanford's quarterback key at 11. So what have you seen like as a contrast from last week and this week, what you guys are doing offensively?
So like I said earlier, you know, Stanford a big personnel team and compared to Wazoo, you know, they had a lot of speed guys, a lot of four open sets, you know, so they're flying guys around, things like that. So a lot of skill players, and you know, with Stanford got a lot of big personnel, you know, big running backs, things like that. So we definitely, you know, more base, you know, nickel and big personnel as well. So.
We're seeing your guys' offense do some of that. You know, throw an extra lineman out there, play all the tight ends. Are you guys facing that enough in practice? Can that be helpful for you at all going into this week?
Oh, for sure. I feel like we have great tight ends. You know, from T. Ferg to John Blank, from all our tight ends. Monteval, yeah. So, you know, Cam McCormick, all those guys. So I feel like we're getting a great look when we are doing our good on good periods, you know, to kind of resemble what we're going to get on Saturday.
Wilson's a receiver for them that big plays. I think he averages over 20 yards per catch. Just as a safety, the importance of no one behind you, is that stressed a little bit more in a game like this against a guy like that?
No, for sure. It comes with the territory. Like, so you don't want to get guys behind you. So you definitely want to take note where he's at. You know, he's a big part of their offense. So that comes with like formation recognition, just knowing where he's at and, you know, when they're trying to get the ball in his hands.
How are you doing individually, just with all the reps now, the game reps you have under your belt the last few weeks? How comfortable do you feel at this point, and just in this role, kind of finally at this stage of your career?
So honestly, I would say I'm comfortable as far as, you know, where I'm at, but at the same time, I'm being very detailed in my approach, you know, with my film study, with how I'm taking my reps on the field, and make sure I'm staying in my stance, bending my knees, reading my keys, just sticking to the basics, because, like, I'm comfortable, but I want to keep myself uncomfortable at the same time, if that makes sense.
An 8 p.m. start's it's a late start for you guys this year. You know, what are you doing specifically to prepare yourselves for that game?
So, you know, being that it's 8 p.m., it's a little bit later than what we typically been getting these past couple games, and I just feel like that's more time to prep, more time to hydrate, more time to get ready for the game. So, you know, it's a little bit different, but I feel like, you know, it allows us to, you know, play well.
You guys talked about the way last year's game went down in Stanford and how tough that was, and is that adding ammunition this week, or is that even needed?
So, in the defense, we're big on no wasted pain. So things, you know, that hurt us last season, we're going to make sure we try not to, you know, bring that to this game, and just make sure we do things better than what we did last time, things like that.
What were some of the things last year that you know, I guess penalties being a big one at the end?
Like I said, play smart, discipline football. Me personally, you know, getting off blocks. You know, last year I feel like I kind of stuck on blocks a little bit too long, just striking with my hands, getting off blocks, you know, to beat the guys, to make plays.
He's not necessarily like a scrambling quarterback, but he's not scared to tuck in and go. How do you feel like you guys have sort of handled, you know, quarterbacks and run the ball at the same time?
Just stay disciplined, you know. Whoever's on the edge, make sure you're keeping their edge. If you're a blitzer, you know, whether if the back's to you, you know, you want to make sure you reading the back, and if the back's away, you know, make sure you contain the quarterback, things like that. So things like that, just reading our keys, being disciplined, we'll be fine.
How do you feel like you guys have competed against that this year so far?
So we've honestly dealt with a lot of scrambling quarterbacks. So at least on the back end, we have to do a lot of plastering, make sure it's plastering, you know, and just trying to just cage the quarterback the best we can. So definitely, I would say we have struggled at times, but you know, we're trying to make sure we no wasted pain. So
Stanford's always got tight running backs that can run the ball well, but they're also good in space and in the passing game. Casey Billikens looks like he's one of those guys. Just What's the challenges of facing those types of running backs that can be elite running and be pretty good out of the backfield catching the ball?
You honestly just have to tackle in space, be able to tackle in space. And, you know, playing football, you have to tackle. So if we can't tackle, then, you know, it's going to struggle. But like I said, so taking our practice, make sure we're reading our keys, we're doing a lot of tackling drills, working on tackling in space. So I feel like we're able to tackle in space and we'll be successful.
That was a big thing Dan talked about after week 1. You feel like you guys have gotten better progressively each week at tackling in space?
100%, 100%. I feel like as long as we're drilling it at practice and we're doing things like that, make sure we're putting the effort towards it. I feel like when we're putting intention towards certain things, it tends to show up on Saturdays.
I know Washington State was kind of a different deal in that regard because they're doing such a good job getting you guys the ball in space. Do you guys feel like you tackled as well against Washington State?
Yeah, no, we definitely didn't tackle to our standard. I'll definitely say that.
Last week, obviously, really high scoring game. What's coach's message been? Really, just to either maybe avoid another shootout, kind of like that, or how to approach that?
So defensively, just stay disciplined. Make sure we keep our eyes on our man. Just like I say, caging the quarterback. No shooting ourselves in the foot with the penalties, things like that. So as long as we keep all those things to a minimum to none, we'll be fine.
Yeah, that was one of the issues last year against Stanford, the penalties, and there was a few last week against Washington State, you know, roughing the passers. Is that something you can coach to get out of penalties, or how do you talk about that in practice?
Oh, you definitely talk about it from the meeting room into practice as well. It's just discipline. You're constantly doing discipline, like whether even when we're, you know, getting to the quarterback, trying to make sure we're not putting our hands in the quarterback's face, make sure we're not holding on the back end, things like that. And we talk about it in the film. So, like I said, no wasted pain. We're going to make sure we go over it, make sure it's not like we don't have any repeat offenders. So, like I said, just at the end of the day, they'll come down to discipline.